Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, JustusRStone, with my review of Volume 2 of Strike the Blood, which is the light novel series by Gakuto Mikumo. In this volume, we find our main character, Kojo, who is the fourth primogenitor, this uber-powered vampire, even though he really doesn't know how powerful he is, how to use the powers he's got, or really, for that matter, he doesn't even really want them, he just wants to live a normal life. We find him dealing with three big problems. Problem number one is a visiting vampire from the first primogenitor's domain who has a very unsettling desire to get to know Kojo better. The second is an old classmate of Yukina's who seems very displeased with the fact that Kojo and Yukina are so close and seems pretty intent on making sure that Kojo dies. And the third thing is a terrorist group that seems to be operating within the city that no one's exactly sure what exactly they're trying to accomplish. As a second volume, volume number 2 accomplishes a couple of good things for the series. First off, we have a lot more fleshing out of characters that were given sort of the real minor spotlight in volume number 1. That being Yaze and Asagi, who are the best friends of Kojo, his childhood friends. We see them fleshed out a lot more. We find out a bit more about their abilities, particularly Yaze, where we find out, well, I don't want to spoil it. You'll find out when you read the book, but there's a lot more going on with Kojo's friends than even what they, I think, led on to Kojo, which is kind of funny, seeing as how he feels the need to hide what he is, even though, well, they've got things to hide too. So we have this fleshing out of minor characters, elevated a little bit higher up into this more spotlight so that we learn more about them and more about what drives them. And it makes them more interesting as characters. We have two new characters that are introduced to the mix, which is Vatler, who is the sort of duke from the first primogenitor's domain, who is this very eccentric and odd character that I think is going to be sort of the wild card element in the series going forward. We also meet Yukina's old roommate, Sayaki, who is all levels of different. But I mean, if you want to boil her character down, she is the tsundere girl. I mean, we've got a harem building up in this story. We got to have the tsundere, right? The girl who wants to kill the dude, but at heart, she's a good girl, right? So that's the sort of spot that she fills in this ever-expanding harem that Kojo is having here. And really, I think it's probably the harem elements of the book that are when it's at its weakest. This sort of sexual hijinks of the accidental boob grab that happens more than once. We got caught in a situation that makes it look like we're doing something really naughty when really we're not. That happens a couple times. There's a number of times that these things happen, and the only thing that's really entertaining, I find, that comes out of it is the browbeating that Kojo receives from Yukina, basically where she is almost like his mom, kind of like, you are so dense and you are so stupid and you really need to think things through a lot more. I mean, generally speaking, I just really like when Yukina and Kojo are talking. And that may sound funny, but I find that their relationship is kind of fun and interesting, and I like the very different ways that their personalities, and the fact that their personalities are so different, how they mix with one another. So we've got a couple of new characters in the mix, and we've got older characters that were introduced in Volume 1, given a lot more screen time and fleshed out a lot more. So that's cool. So we've got an expanding cast, making the cast more interesting. The second thing that this volume does really well for the future of this story is it expands the story into a more global setting. So Vatler is from the first primogenitor's domain. So now we start getting sort of a glimpse into how the world outside of Kojo's city operates. We start seeing how there are different political factions and that there's even terrorist groups that the first primogenitor's domain has to deal with. And it gives it a more international flavor and a bigger feeling to the story, that there's a lot more going on this world stage, and maybe even a lot more at stake than just the immediate fate of the city. And that's a really good thing for a series that, at this point, I can see up to 14 volumes or more that have been released in Japan. So it gives the story a lot more breadth and a lot more possibilities going down the road, which is something that I really like to see when we start getting into volumes 2 and especially into third volumes, because at that point you need that glimpse of what's ahead and is there a reason for me to keep reading. And at this point, I would have to say, there is definitely a reason for me to keep reading Strike the Blood. And those are my thoughts on this second volume. A good volume, strong volume. Again, the harem elements, but at least some good conversation between characters comes out of it. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing Sword Art Online Volume number 6, which is the second part of the Phantom Bullet storyline. Try and get this one done before Volume 7 releases, which I think is in like another month or two. So I'll be reviewing this on my next video, which will be next Saturday morning when I release that. I hope you'll join me for it. If you want to, click on subscribe, the banner above my head or in the description below, and so you can keep up with all of my reviews. Also, over to my left, I've got links to my light novel playlist, so you can check out my older light novel reviews, as well as my manga reviews, which I am going to be starting to do some more of those coming up very, very soon. And finally, if you feel like it, I've written some books as well. You can read those and take a look at those down in that corner as well. So thanks very much for joining me on this video. I hope you liked it. I hope to see you in my next one. Until then, bye-bye for now.